You're listening to Seek Travel Ride, a podcast which shares the stories of people taking bike adventures all over the world, and I'm proudly supported by Red White Apparel. They're a small independent brand, and for the last 10 years they focus wholly and solely on making the most comfortable bib shorts on the market. I've been using their bib shorts on my long rides lately, and they're a total game changer. Support the brands that support this podcast. Head to the link in the show notes to learn more about Red White Apparel. Now, on to the episode. Hello everyone, Bella Malloy here, host of the show, and welcome back to another midweek mini episode. These episodes are all about getting the inspiration out there for bike adventures and helping to fuel your fire for taking your own trips as well. This week I am absolutely stoked to be sharing an update from a previous podcast guest, Italian Giacomo Turco. I first featured Giacomo on the podcast very late last year in 2024, and there Giacomo was actually in South America on an epic solo adventure. Giacomo is also one of those people who really likes to push the limits of what's possible for himself. He takes on pretty extreme routes. Often he is on his own and isolated, and he's certainly not scared of being out there in the elements for many days on end without seeing people, hiker biking through some extreme terrain. Now, Giacomo wound up his South American adventure earlier this year and then flew back to Italy, took some time out, but that's definitely not the end of the bike travel for Giacomo. And he since travelled to South Africa, and he has a plan of riding north all the way home to Italy via the western side of the continent there in Africa. So this update is coming from Giacomo to let us know what his African adventures have been like so far and the insights that he has learnt so far on that mega trip. Before we get into Giacomo's story, I just wanted to share how you can actually be featured on these episodes as well. Each week I actually get a few people get in touch with me asking how can I share my story too. And the answer is you just need to get in touch with me. I'm most active on social media on Instagram. Our account there is @SeekTravelRide, so you can send me a direct message on that platform, or otherwise shoot me an email. My email address is podcast@seektravelride.com. Let me know about your adventures and I can let you know how you can share some audio and be featured in these midweek episodes. All right, now let's listen to what Giacomo has to share.
Hi Bella, good morning here from Namibia, and I'm really happy to give you an update about my bicycle journey through Africa. So for those who don't know me, I'm Giacomo. I'm an Italian guy, 29 years old, and I studied aerospace engineering, but now I kind of left like the algorithms behind for a while to cycle around the world. And like I've been cycling for 14 months in 2024 and at the beginning of 2025 around South America, always looking for the wildest adventures and for also true connection with nature and local people. And after that, I felt that, I didn't still want to come back to normal life. Then there was still like a lot I wanted to explore. So I just decided to come back for 2 months to Italy to charge a little bit like the batteries and then fly to Cape Town, where I started my bicycle journey from Cape Town back to Italy through West Africa. That is a journey that will probably be around 20,000 kilometers. And it's really like a massive adventure. And honestly, sometimes in these days, I'm really asking myself, how is it possible that after all these trips in South America, I could really jump in such a incredible, overwhelming adventure like Africa? Because I think I really got excited about the fact that Africa, from many point of views, is really like the ultimate adventure. Because I think there are no continents that are as raw, as untamed as Africa. But also it's tough sometimes. But so coming back basically from the beginning, I flew to Cape Town on the 28th of April, and also actually both my bike and my luggage got lost. So I had to wait for a while, but then eventually they arrived. I was really happy about it. And after going down to the Cape of Good Hope, that was the true starting point of my journey. I started cycling north, always north. And what really struck me of Africa is really like yeah, it's really a land of contrast because you see like white people, yeah, living in rich houses, almost like in Europe, feels like Europe. And on the side, you see people really living in poor condition in shacks, especially around Cape Town. And this really impacted me. But yeah, at the same time, what I realized from the very beginning is really like the hospitality of the people is really like a big part of this journey because another time, like in South America, I'm really asking myself, like, okay, why people that really, yeah, almost have nothing are really so happy to host me and to share what they have with me. And I don't know, in Europe, or in the Western one in general, it's really so difficult to give what you have to somebody else. It's really like a big question that I'm bringing with myself throughout the whole journey, and I hope that yeah, by the end I will be able to give an answer. And actually, the first weeks leaving Cape Town have been really not easy, especially from a mental point of view, because it was really difficult to leave Italy and let's say starting again this life on the bicycle because I was so happy to see my family or my friends. And yeah, it was very hard to leave. I think also part of me also wanted more stability, wanted to have in a way also easier life because this life on the bike is, yeah, it's very exciting, every day an adventure, but sometimes it's also exhausting because especially let's say if you do it alone, every day is so intense, it's very intense. And sometimes you would really feel like I just want to, I don't know, yeah, get in a place where I don't feel anything because you feel really so many strong emotions and you have like days in which you're like, wow, I love this life, it's amazing. And then you have like moments that are like, oh, I hate this, it's just terrible. And this can happen like maybe also multiple times in the same day. And that's the magic and the nightmare, let's say, of traveling by bike. But also, if I was actually feeling bad about starting again, like on the bicycle, I really knew that this is what I wanted to do. And it's really what makes me happy because for me, every day spent on the bike, cycling is really a gift. And I feel, yeah, really so grateful about the opportunity I have because I know that I'm also very privileged to be able to cycle the world like this. And also, one thing I'm really kind of facing in this part of the journey is really that I'm realizing that I really need social connection, emotional connection. So for me, it's not only important to cycle, but really to meet the people, to stay with the people, to also feel welcome. And yeah, for now, Africa is really also giving me this because especially when I was riding in this more remote region in South Africa, close to the Orange River, I met like, yeah, these sheep herders that invited me because they just basically got in a trap African wild dog and they were really excited to cook it for me. And actually, yeah, it was a very incredible experience. And also after they killed a sheep, so it was also very, yeah, it was really a strong experience for me to really see like the deep respect they have for the animal, for the sheep, and really how they really use every part of the sheep. They don't throw away anything. And I don't know, in the Western world, it's like really, we really like meat, but we don't really want to see how it's prepared. So for me, it was also very interesting this. And also, when I was cycling on the Orange River, this is a really remote road, I also saw a leopard with some babies. And then they were just like, they went away immediately because they were like maybe 30 meters. So yeah, it was really an incredible encounter. I mean, I was a bit shocked, but also very astonished for what I just saw. And after that, I crossed into Namibia. Namibia, from the very beginning, was a land of beautiful encounters, but also really harsh conditions because the wind, the wind, you really get it in the face. I mean, it's not as crazy as the wind of Patagonia, but still, when you have the wind and the sand together, and also the washboards, then I mean, I just don't know what I mean about the big question in the podcast. If you have like washboards, headwind, and a climb all together, you just like give up maybe. I don't know. But yeah, at some point you just realize that also just cycling in headwind is not nice, but it's part of traveling by bicycle in a way. So you sometimes you can rest, you can stop if the wind is too strong, but otherwise you just have to fight it little by little and keep going. Yeah, so yeah, now I'm like 2 months since I left Cape Town. The energies are sometimes they're high, sometimes they're low, like always. And yeah, I just really feel that yeah, now I'm getting in a more adventurous part. First, because now I'm getting a part of Namibia where people usually don't go, that is the northwest, the so-called Cauco, that is the Maraland and the Caucoland. Yes, and it's like really wild, and also there are a lot of elephants, lions, so I'm also pretty scared actually about meeting lions. Yeah, but it's also part of the adventure. And then from there I think I will get in a new chapter on my journey where the challenge will be, yeah, getting in the countries that are not as developed. So after from Angola on will be a different kind of challenge, but I'm just trying to every day do my kilometers, just keep going, listening to myself, and also sometimes really accepting when I don't feel like riding, when I don't feel like doing something. Because I think the most important thing in a long bike journey is really to keep it sustainable. Because if you don't, I mean, if you push it too much, then you're burned out and you just want to go home. And you always have to kind of, I think, listen to yourself. I think it's very important. And yeah, so yeah, really happy to share an update about how it's going here. And yeah, I really, yeah, a big hug here from Namibia, and see you the next time.
Thank you so much, Giacomo. Oh my gosh, what a mega adventure lays ahead of you there. And I really sort of stand back to take stock of what you've experienced so far. To make the decisions to leave the family behind in Italy and go out on this huge journey through Africa isn't a decision that you would have taken lightly. And I can also appreciate that having spent so long on your own in South America, being surrounded by family and friends, the decision to sort of move away from your beautiful community there to once again push your limits in another area on the bike, I imagine it's a decision you didn't take too lightly. I vividly remember when you landed in Africa because there was the saga of your bike and all your luggage didn't actually arrive with you. And it wasn't a case that it was there the next day. From memory, I think it was nearly a week passed before your bike actually made it to you. And I imagine that would have been quite stressful too. And then cycling to the Cape of Good Hope, taking stock that the only way forward for you now is heading north. And it's a big continent. Listeners, it's something that strikes me every time I've ever interviewed a fellow adventurer who has gone through Africa of just how huge that continent is. I don't think it's actually correctly reflected in our maps of just how huge the continent is. It's sort of shrunk down a bit so that the world map can sort of look nice and flat and square. But Africa is massive. And Giacomo, you've got a huge journey ahead of you. And knowing what I know about you, a lot of that's going to be about taking on the most extreme areas, roads, hiker bikes, isolated roads, and everything in between. But you also mentioned a few things that I wanted to touch on. The first one was that type of paradox that comes with taking these journeys, how at multiple times your emotions change and you go up and down this type of roller coaster where, yes, I'm living my best life. Everything I want to do is all about bike travel and I want to try and do this for as long as possible, to perhaps in another hour you can be hating it so much and feeling lonely and isolated and not wanting to push your bike through hours of corrugated, dry, dusty, sandy roads. I think that's something that other bike travelers could probably resonate with. And actually, if I think of it in a different way, it's also something that people taking on things like ultra cycling challenges can definitely associate themselves with as well, because it's that emotional roller coaster. 1 minute you're feeling absolutely amazing, the pedals are feeling light, you're feeling strong, you're loving everything about what you're doing, and maybe an hour later the mood has plummeted and you have no energy and you're at the other end of the emotional scale. So I think it's something that many of us who take on this form of bike travel have dealt with ourselves, and you put it into words so nicely there too. The other thing that you raised, which has been a topic on many an episode with a guest interview, is that idea that those in the world that we encounter who seemingly have the least to offer somehow still offer everything they possibly can up to us. And those of us who are from Western countries, I think this hits us so much more starkly than ever, and probably gives us that element of extra introspection to question possibly how it is that, again, people with nothing are giving everything possible to us. And also, would we find that level of kindness back home? Now, I have interviewed a fair few bike travellers who have overwhelmingly told me that they do receive kindness when travelling through Western countries. Indeed, I've experienced this myself as well. I guess the big difference, though, is perhaps that perspective shift. How much does it matter to many of us in Western countries if, we offer a bike traveller, say, a can of drink or pay for a coffee or a meal? Whereas where Giacomo is, he's receiving kindness from people who really don't have much at all for themselves, and yet they're giving stuff away to this guest, this stranger that they've never met before, and putting themselves last. And that's what really strikes me whenever I hear these type of stories from a bike traveller. It's not that kindness isn't found from all people, from all countries, in all nationalities, but it's just that level of giving that those with the least seem to give their absolute most. If you're listening to this and you've experienced it before, please get in touch with me. I'd love to know your thoughts on it as well and what has struck you the most about it. Because something that I've also learnt from interviewing all these amazing adventurers is that when people have taken on these journeys and received this level of hospitality from, again, those people who really don't have much at all, there's an overwhelming sense of wanting to forever then pay it forward. So when they return, they're constantly looking at ways of repaying forward that act of kindness that they have been given. Some other bike travellers have said they think a lot of the problems in our world could actually be fixed if many people took a bike adventure. I know personally I've started hosting some bike travellers who've come past here, and it is one of those things you do as a host want to give back just as much as you have received yourself. I guess that's that act of paying it forward too. Perhaps when we take these journeys on, we return with an extra level of empathy. Regardless, it's a constant theme and something which has struck you there, Giacomo, as well. Now, Giacomo is currently in Namibia and he's taking on some pretty intense terrain there. If it's anything I've learnt from interviewing other travellers in Namibia, he's got some pretty isolated areas ahead of him. Giacomo, I can't wait to see your adventures in Africa unfold. Listeners, I'm going to be sharing some images and videos on our Instagram page of Giacomo's journey, so be sure to check it out. And I'm fairly certain I'll likely catch up with Giacomo somewhere along the way for some more mini updates and perhaps a full feature episode as well. In the meantime, be sure to check him out on social media. He has an Instagram account, which is cycling.beyond, and he's also got a fantastic YouTube channel as well, where he shows some more visuals behind the journey. I'll post links to both of those in the podcast show notes. Thank you, Giacomo. Listeners, one of the best things about being an independent podcaster is I get to choose the companies which I collaborate with, and I'm all about promoting brands which I actually use. Red White Apparel is one of them. Over the years, I have tried to go chamois-free on my bike adventures and ditch the bib shorts, but every time I have been filled with regret and a lot of discomfort. That means I need solid bib shorts, and Red White have got it right. After 10 years of making nothing else but bib shorts, they have nailed comfort and functionality, including a version which I'm using which makes pee breaks way easier. As a woman, a pee break friendly bib is an absolute non-negotiable. Supporting Red White helps support this podcast, so please head to the link which I've put in the podcast show notes and see what they're all about. Okay, now back to the episode. Listeners, it's that time of year where the ultra cycling season has really taken off, and there are two huge races currently taking place in Europe where we have some previous podcast guests there racing. The first one is the Transcontinental Race, the TCR, probably one of the most famous road cycling ultra races out there, which traverses the entire continent of Europe. This year they left from Santiago de Compostela, and the finish, I believe, is in Bulgaria. And something different from that race is most riders are going to be seen to be riding a route which will be close to 5,000 kilometres long. So some long days in the saddle ahead for many of them. And we have two previous podcast guests who are on the start line this year. The first one is Stevie Tisson. Hi, Stevie. Now, I actually met Stevie when we each raced our first ultra cycling event 3 years ago, and since then we've become great friends. Stevie is cap number 29, so for those of you who are dot watchers, be sure to check her dot out for the next couple of weeks and see where she gets up to. And the next podcast guest, who is also at the Transcontinental, is April Drage. April's a fellow Australian, and she is cap number 20. Previously, April's taken on races such as Race to the Rock and also the Tour Divide, doing very well in both of those events. So it's going to be awesome to see her now take on the TCR. And I'm extra pumped because one of the control points for the TCR is not too far away from where I live here in France, and I'm going to be scouting out both April and Stevie out on the road. So I'll keep you updated on their progress for sure. In the meantime, as I said, they are caps number 29 and number 20, so be sure to check them out. One of the other huge ultra races in Europe that's taking place right now is Via Race, and we also have previous podcast guest Benson, or James Benson King. He is doing a phenomenal job there out on the road. So if you are into dot watching, check out the Via Race dots there and give him a follow there too. Now, listeners, a few days ago, I put out a question on my Instagram where I asked you to let me know where you want to go for your next bike adventure, and I got a few responses which I want to share. The first one is from Road to Adventures Cyan, or is it Road to Adventures Ian? Road to Adventures Sawn? Sorry, I'm not sure how I pronounce your screen name there, but you have said Stelvio or Nice or Norway switchbacks. Oh, some awesome options there. I've actually ridden the Paso della Stelvio, and there are many, many switchbacks to be enjoyed on that famous road pass. And, Norway, what a dream that would be. All right, girl, you have said Japan in spring. Oh, I wonder, are you going to time it for cherry blossom season? Japan has been on my bikepacking adventure bucket list personally for quite a number of years. I'm mesmerised by the country, the landscapes, the culture, and, come on listeners, obviously the food as well. So I'm looking forward to living vicariously through your travels there. P. Vasseur, you have said Spain and Portugal. Oh, two countries I've not really been to much at all. Some awesome options for bike riding in both of those countries, not to mention food as well. Where is Marcelo? You have said the Faroe Islands to complete the Nordic countries, or Georgia. Now, Marcelo, you have just been riding an amazing adventure through Norway at the moment. So, I can understand you taking a trip up to the Faroes. And Georgia, wow, some amazing scenery for you to take on there as well. I'm definitely keen to see where your next adventures take you. D. Sakor, you said backyard sub 24 hours in the Kootenays, BC, Canada. Eventually, I plan to bring my kid with me. And I have to say, I reached out to you to understand this a little bit more. Can I just say, I love the idea that you're looking at bringing your young kid with you as well on future bike adventures. Teach them when they're young and they'll be passionate about this form of travel for sure. What an awesome thing to be able to experience together. Occasional _bikepacker. The new Oregonesis route by Bikepacking Routes. That's previous podcast guest Jacob Ashton, who, FYI listeners, has become an absolute beast on off-road ultra races. So I'm going to keep an eye out on what you get up to as well, Jacob. Mark Tracy Adam, you have said España. Another vote for Spain there. Sue Chappell, you said maybe it's Turkey. So many options out there. Ooh, I love the idea of seeing Turkey on a bike. I've interviewed a few guests who have done that, and the culture, the scenery, the hospitality, and, yep, once again, the food is exceptional there. And then lastly, I have Kurt Werby, who says, after Morocco, Tibet, but I'm not sure how possible that is. Yeah, you're right, Kurt. The only possible way that I know of doing Tibet now is actually through an organised tour as a group. It's an area which is pretty tightly controlled. I guess it'll depend on your appetite for adventures and whether you can do one on a tour or whether you want to stick to solo adventures. There you go. We've got a few adventures going all around the world there. And be sure to get in touch with me and let me know where your bike adventures are going to be taking you. Now we get to that time of week where I get to shout out you, my incredible super fans who have been so magnanimous and bought me some coffees to show your appreciation for the show. The first one I have this week is from Jason Boyd. And Jason, you have said, Bella, thank you for making such an amazing community and your fantastic podcast. Your broadcast inspires me every week. I hear you speak of your fear of wild camping on the show. So you should definitely travel to Vermont and wild camp. There's nothing here that will kill you, which will ease your mind. Jason. Thank you so much, Jason, for thinking of me there. I've heard some great things about Vermont, and I'm wondering if that's where you're from as well. Thanks so much for buying me some coffees and supporting the show, and I'm stoked that you love tuning into the podcast and getting inspiration from it as well. Listeners, I also once again have more anonymous donations on Buy Me a Coffee as well. So for those of you who have bought me some coffees but didn't leave your name, thank you so much for supporting me and the shows. And listeners, if you would like to do as Jason Boyd and all those someones have done, you can also buy me a coffee. Simply head to buymeacoffee.com/Seek Travel Ride. If you do, please leave your name and a message and let me know what do you love about the podcast and where's your next bike adventure taking you. Until the next episode, I'm Bella Malloy. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning into today's episode. Remember, if you're after bib shorts which genuinely keep you comfy for hours on your bike, do yourself a favour and check out Red White Apparel. They spent 10 years obsessing over one product and one product only, and it really shows. I ride in them, I love them, and I think you will too. Plus, by supporting them, you're also supporting Seek Travel Ride. Click the link in the show notes to learn more.